Have you ever sat there looking at your phone, waiting for a text from someone who almost never texts you first? You tell yourself they're probably busy, they'll reply later. Then they finally do, and somehow that one reply is enough to make you forget the last 3 days of silence. Or maybe it's a friend group. You see them posting pictures together at a cafe, you're scrolling through Instagram and thinking, oh, they went out. No one invited you. Again, your first instinct is not anger, it's excuses. Maybe they thought I was busy. Maybe it was a last minute plan. Maybe they forgot. Then next week it happens again and again and again. And somehow you're still hoping that next time they'll remember you. Or maybe you have experienced this. There's that one friend who only remembers you when they need notes or when they are fighting with someone or when they need advice. The moment their life becomes normal again, they disappear until the next emergency. And somehow you're always there because you keep thinking that they're still my friend. But are they? The strange thing is, we don't usually leave the first time someone makes us feel unwanted. If someone ignored us once, we'd probably understand. People get busy, people have bad days, people forget. But then it becomes twice, 5 times, 10 times, 50 times, and we are still there. Why? Why do we stay somewhere that keeps reminding us we don't belong? I asked myself that question for a long time because if I'm being honest, I've done it too. I've waited for people who barely made time for me. I've over explained other people's behavior. I've convinced myself that maybe I was asking for too much when all I wanted was to feel included. And I realized something. The reason we stay is not because we enjoy being treated that way. We stay because of hope. Hope is a beautiful thing. It helps us survive during difficult times. It helps us chase our dreams, but sometimes hope can also trap us. Because instead of looking at someone like how they are behaving, we keep falling in love with who they could become. We tell ourselves that they weren't always like this. They're just going through something. They'll change. Maybe after exams, maybe after they get a job, maybe after they become less stressed, maybe after, and before we know it, months have passed. Sometimes even years, waiting for a version of someone that has never actually existed. Think about a plant, right? If you water it every single day and months later it's still dying, would you blame yourself forever? Or would you accept that maybe no matter how much love you give, not everything is meant to grow? Relationships can be like that as well. You can be loyal, you can be patient, you can be understanding, you can be supportive, you can give people chance after chance, but none of those things can make someone value you if they simply don't respect you, if they simply don't value you. And that's one of the hardest things to accept because deep down we think if I just love them a little more, if I'm just a little more understanding, if I'm just a little more patient, maybe then they'll choose me. But people don't suddenly value you because you exhausted yourself trying to prove your worth. If anything, sometimes they simply get used to the fact that you'll always be there. And that is when I realized something that completely changed how I looked at relationships. Love, friendship, respect. Like none of these should feel like audition. You shouldn't have to perform every single day hoping someone finally decides that you're enough, that you're worth it. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that we don't stay because we are weak. We stay because our brain is trying to protect us. So let me explain. We remember the highlights, not the whole story. Imagine your favorite TV show, right? You love that show. And there's this one episode that's absolutely incredible. The rest of the season, it's kind of average. And months later, someone asks you about that show. What's the first thing you would remember? The amazing episode, right? Relationship works the same way. Think about that one friend who makes you feel left out. They forgot your birthday, they never text first, they cancel plans, they only call when they need something. But then, one random day, they buy you your favorite chocolate, or they remember one tiny detail about you. And suddenly your brain goes, see, they do care. One good moment suddenly becomes proof that everything else wasn't that bad. It's almost like watching a trailer for a movie, right? The trailer is amazing. Then you watch the actual movie and realize the trailer showed all the good parts. Sometimes we do that with people as well. We replay their best moments instead of looking at the relationship as a whole. Then there's hope, and hope is dangerous when it's attached to potential instead of reality. Have you ever caught yourself saying, they weren't always like this? They'll change. Or maybe they're just stressed. Maybe after exam, things will be better. Maybe after they get a job, things will be better. Maybe after this, maybe after that. And did you notice something? Your happiness keeps getting postponed. You're always waiting for a future version of someone. But here's a question that genuinely changed how I think. If this person would never change, would I still choose this relationship? Sit with that question because sometimes we are not dating the person, we are dating the possibility. We are not friends with who they are, we are friends with the version we have imagined they'll become. And those two are very different people. And then comes the hardest part, the time you have already invested. Maybe you have known them for 5 years. Maybe you have liked them since school. Maybe you have spent months trying to fix the friendship. You think, I've already spent so much time on this. I cannot walk away now. But let me ask you something. If you met this exact person today, exactly as they are, knowing everything, would you invite them into your life? Or are you only staying because of history? Sometimes we are not protecting the relationship. We are protecting the time we have already invested in it. And finally, the biggest reason of them all is loneliness. Because leaving sounds empowering until you're actually alone. That is when you start missing them. Not because they treated you well, but because they were familiar. It's like cleaning out your wardrobe. There's that one hoodie you've had for years. It's faded, it's uncomfortable, it doesn't even fit properly anymore, but you still keep it. Not because it's the best hoodie, because it's familiar. People can become familiar in exactly the same way. We confuse familiarity with safety. We confuse history with love. We confuse comfort with happiness. And those things aren't always the same. That is why so many people they go back, not because the relationship became healthier, because the silence after leaving felt unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels scary. But here's what I have learned: just because something feels familiar doesn't mean it's where you're supposed to stay. So how do you actually leave? I don't think it starts with blocking someone or deleting their number or deciding that's it, I'm done. I think it starts much earlier than that. It starts the moment you stop making excuses for someone else's behavior. I remember doing this all the time. They're probably busy, they didn't mean it, they have just been stressed lately. And don't get me wrong, sometimes those things are true. Life gets busy, people go through difficult phases. But here's the question I started asking myself: if I were in their position, would I have treated them the same way? If I cared about someone, would I leave them wondering where they stood? Would I only text them when I needed something? Would I make them feel like they had to earn my attention? Probably not. That question helped me stop looking at people's words and start looking at their patterns. Because words, they can be beautiful, but patterns are honest. Someone can tell you, I miss you, but if they disappear for another 3 weeks after saying it, which one should you believe? The sentence or the pattern? I started realizing that consistency says I care much louder than promises ever could. And then another thought hit me. Maybe I wasn't actually scared of losing them. Maybe I was afraid of what came after. And that was starting over, meeting new people, being alone, wondering if I'd ever find friends like that again, or if I'd ever find someone like him again, or if I'd ever, because staying gave me certainty. Even if it wasn't a happy certainty, at least I knew what tomorrow looked like. Leaving meant stepping into the unknown. And if you have watched my uncertainty video, you already know how much our brain hates knowing the unknown. Then I realized something that completely changed my perspective. I had two choices. I could stay somewhere I constantly question my place, or I could leave and create space for people who never made me question it in the first place. Neither option was comfortable. One was the discomfort of being lonely, and the other was the discomfort of constantly feeling unwanted. Eventually, you have to choose your discomfort. And I would rather be temporarily alone than permanently undervalued. Because loneliness, it changes. The right people come, new friendship happens, life moves forward. But constantly begging for a seat at a table where no one is saving you a chair, that slowly changes how you see yourself. You start believing you're hard to love, hard to include, hard to choose, where in reality, you were simply sitting at the wrong table. The biggest lesson I've learned is this. You don't have to convince the right people to see your value. Think about your closest friend. Do they have to earn your kindness every single day? Do they have to prove they are worthy of being your friend? No. You choose them naturally. The healthiest relationship feel like that. You don't have to audition. You don't have to constantly wonder, do they even like me? You don't have to shrink yourself hoping they'll finally choose you. Because the people who genuinely want you in their life have a funny way of making that obvious. And maybe that's the reminder you needed today. Stop spending so much time trying to become enough for people who have already shown you how little space they are willing to make for you. Instead, spend that time becoming the kind of person who walks away from tables where where they constantly have to ask, is there even a seat for me here? Because one day you'll find people who pull out a chair before you even have to ask. And when that happens, you'll wonder why you spent so much time fighting for places where you were only ever tolerated instead of truly welcome. So that is it for today's video, and let me know what do you think about this one, and we'll meet next time. Till then, bye bye.